So Ron, let's jump into it. We want to talk weddings. Yesterday, the first day of Mobile Beat was really kind of about the multi-system, and we really didn't get a chance to dig into the wedding side. But so this, for some people, will be the first real discussion or thoughts about weddings. There was a little bit with John Beck, and he was talking about how to handle. Well, basically, was it
Objections?
Objections. Yeah, he was talking a little bit about that, and that's something that I wanted to start off with that a little bit this morning. Is we run into the objections and such from when we're talking to our clients and such. How have you, because you are doing a lot of customizing with what you do, and sometimes they love your ideas and sometimes they don't.
Right.
How do you handle that conversation as you're trying to find out what's going to be the best fit for them?
Well, I think obviously the finding out what's going to be the best fit for them happens in that sales consultation and asking a lot of questions. I mean, as far as usually my conversation will start out with beyond just finding out a little bit more about the couple and who they are, where they came from, how they came to be. It's one of the first questions I'll ask them are, what are 3 adjectives you want your guests to say most about your wedding once it's over? Mm-hmm. And typically they're going to come up with words like fun, personal, organized, exciting, memorable, another big one. Right. And then I go into ideas that are going to address those particular needs. Now, my style of service is a lot different than most DJs' style of service, at least in my market. And yeah, there's going to be times when a bride says, I really don't want all of that. Mm-hmm. I don't want it, because the amount of time that they're going to spend with me in helping to plan their dream wedding is going to be a whole lot more than just filling out an online form and maybe having an hour-long conversation. I mean, there's going to be quite a bit of detailed planning involved. So for me, though, if they don't want the majority of it, traditionally, that's not going to be my particular client. If it's just 1 or 2 things that they're not particularly interested in, then we'll talk about those and how we might be able to change them to something that they would like, to modify them, to further personalize them.
Sure. So what I'm envisioning is you're having a conversation. There's a tool that that sets up a response from the guests, whether that's
mm-hmm.
Bringing them in, building the energy level of the event,
right.
And the bride's like, no, I don't want to have that. So you're thinking more often, instead of trying to pitch them or sell them or help them understand how that tool works for them to enhance the party, right. That may be finding a different way to get there.
Right. I mean, a personalized wedding party introduction doesn't have to mean that everybody comes in with their hands up and they do this little dance and do all of that. It can still be a personalized wedding party introduction and be elegant. It can still be extremely personalized, but there's nothing that says it has to be that rah-rah rally type of moment like we see at so many wedding receptions. Right. It would be nice in a way, because that actually kind of helps with the energy. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, I mean, how many DJs actually work with that client that want everything just extremely elegant? Most all of us have clients that want, as I said, if you ask your couples what it is they want most at their wedding reception, they're going to say they want it to be fun.
Right.
Okay, and then you have to define, what does fun mean to you? Some people think of fun as being just having great conversation. Other people think of fun as being high energy, and most people think of fun as that party portion of the night. They don't think of all the things that lead up to that party portion of the night. They're just thinking about the dancing part. But in order for that fun to happen, there has to be fun in the other 2 parts of a wedding reception, because the wedding reception is basically 3 acts. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that end is where all the partying and the dancing happens. If there's nothing in the first 2 acts to energize the guest and to engage the guest, then they're not going to be nearly as likely just to jump out on a dance floor in that 3rd act.
For sure.
Nobody ever watches the beginning of a movie and discovers that the beginning of a movie sucks, and then fast forwards to the end of the movie to see if it's any better than the first.
Well, except for Ishtar. And if you guys don't know what that is, you need to go and watch it. It's like one of the classically bad movies of all
Dustin
time.
Hoffman and
Warren Beatty.
Warren Beatty, yeah.
Yes, I went to that. I sat through the whole thing because it's like it cannot get any worse than this. But anyway, that's a subject.
Yeah.
So I want to take you back, because you mentioned that you'll have a bride that you ask the questions and they'll say fun. And then as you were kind of talking about kind of maybe defining it, do you ask the bride or do you help her define fun so you understand that? I'm just going to give an example. I might have a bride whose idea of fun is getting so, draining 2 kegs of beer by herself. That could be fun in her world. Some might be having a full dance floor. Some might be something. Do you have them define that, or how do you?
Sometimes, I mean, I'll usually say by fun, what do you mean by fun? What are you thinking of when it comes to fun? Rarely have I ever had a bride say, I want to do 2 kegs of beer. But most of the time, again, if you ask, they're all going to go to the party part of the night.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think about the other 2 parts of the evening. As I said, it's a 3-act structure, because if you that first act is just, again, going to the movie analogy. That first act is just like in a movie. You're introduced to the primary characters, you're introduced to the supporting cast, and the relationships are established. The second act is going to be the rising action in a movie, or in a wedding reception. That rising action is all of the formalities, everything from the toast through all the formal dances, bouquet and garter toss. And then that third act is in a movie, is the climax that leads to a happy ending. A grand finale. And that's the same thing at a wedding reception. That third act is the dancing and all the fun that happens that leads to that last dance of the night, that grand finale.
Sure.
So as I said, most people, when they think of fun, they're thinking of that part. If you really want to help them make their wedding reception fun, though, then you have to engage them in, okay, so what are we going to do in the first 2 acts to engage your guests and keep them entertained up to that point, so that when that dance floor opens, they're going to be more likely to want to get up and party the night away with you. And so that's where all those little personalized moments come in, where you can make suggestions, or where I make suggestions on, here's little things you could possibly do. Some of them are going to be generic ideas, because I don't know the couple that well at this point. But just by offering a generic idea, you're telling the couple that you have creative thought process, and they're going to kind of, oh, well, that's kind of cool. Well, we can take that and we can turn it to do this for you, or whatever. And the more I know about you, the more I'm going to be able to offer you personalized moments at your wedding. But I can't. It's impossible just to shotgun I guess it's not impossible, but to me, it's a waste of time to shotgun 2 or 3 dozen ideas to a couple with no idea whether or not they're going to like them or not.
For sure.
If I know the couple, then I know that the ideas I'm going to present to them are going to be something that they're going to be more, they're going to accept more, that they're going to want more.
So when you're talking and you're sharing ideas with them, especially if it's maybe a pre-booking meeting,
right?
You don't know much about them yet, right? Or have you gone and stalked them and gone to their Facebook page? Because you want to try to tip the balances a little bit in your favor when you're putting ideas out there, because you don't want to go out there and take them left when they're more of a right kind of a couple, as an example. So do you try to do any research before you meet with them, or?
If I do stalk them on Facebook, which I've been known to, I don't call it stalking. I call it research. Yes, it's research. If I do that, I don't let the couple know I did that. It really doesn't change anything in my thinking going into that meeting, because we all know everything on Facebook is true.
Accurate and true,
yes. Actually, you might as well be looking at a Wikipedia page, So, I mean, it gives me a general idea of the couple. But no, when I first sit down with a couple, what I do is I ask them. I'll spend 15 minutes just talking about the 2 of them. Tell me, are you from the area? What school did you go to? When did you graduate? Where'd you go to college? What's your degree in? How'd the 2 of you meet? I don't get into all of the details of everything of the relationship at this moment, because that could go an hour.
Right.
But I will ask. I'll start with, how did you meet? And let them tell me the story of how they came to be. Because I guarantee you ask a bride to talk about her relationship and this guy she's going to marry, and they just boom. I mean, they'll open up to you. Everybody loves to talk about the relationship. And if they don't, then you go.
There's a red flag.
Yeah, that's a red flag. And then maybe ask them about the proposal, because the whole time I'm listening to all of this, I'm still able to maybe come up hear something. As an example, and it's kind of off the I'm a huge. Did you know I'm a huge Disney freak, John?
Really?
I am.
I did not know that.
I am. I go to Disney World all the time.
Wow.
But so imagine a bride that says in a conversation of how tell me about the proposal that the groom proposed to her at the wishing well at Cinderella's castle at the Magic Kingdom at Disney World. I can come up with 6 ideas of ways to make that a special moment at a wedding reception. So when I get into talking about their wedding reception and personalizing it, how we can make it personal, I can offer them like 3 or 4 ideas right then and there on that moment, on how we can take that moment and turn it into something special for your wedding. So and by doing that, it tells the couple you're listening to them, because if I can repeat back to them what they told me about their relationship and turn those into personal moments, or even say, this might not the best idea, but maybe you might like it. But if it relates to them personally, then they know I'm listening to them.
For sure.
Rather than just, again, going into immediately, did you know I have flashy lights and I have these big speakers and we do 4 hours and
as I'm kind of envisioning the sitting down and talking to them, you didn't start off by talking about your flashy lights or speakers. You started asking questions.
Yeah.
Then you progressed to share some ideas based on those questions that you were listening. Do you have the conversation about your flashy lights and your big speakers?
No, not unless they specifically ask.
And now I know why, but for the people watching, why does that not matter, or why is that not something you bring up in that pre-booking?
Because what I'm providing is more about entertainment than it is about the flashy lights and here's what happens at the end of my presentation. I have like a bulleted point checklist of things. It's part of their pamphlet they get to take home with them.
Okay.
And before I get to the agreement and the price and all of that, I go through that bulleted point list, because most everything that's on that list is stuff that I've talked about during my presentation.
Sure.
Okay. So the bulleted point list for me is an opportunity. The way I present it is I just want to make sure I've covered everything with you before I leave you today. So I turn to that page and I start at the top and I go boom, 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 boom. Just kind of run through it real quick. In those bulleted points, it does say I have a Bose sound system. In those bulleted points, it does say I provide you with basic dance floor lighting, and it does say I have a huge music library. So yeah, I mention it in that way, but never do I sit down and talk about, all the things I can do with lights, or how my sound system is better than someone else's, or sometimes a bride will ask about being able to give me a must play or do not play list.
Yeah,
that's fine, but my goal in a sales conference is not to go for the sale. I'm going for their trust.
Okay.
If they trust me at the end of that conversation, then they're going to contract me. And if they trusted me enough to contract me, then they're going to trust me throughout the process.
Have you found instances where you thought the relationship and you built what you felt was a level of trust where you were like, yeah, we're right here, but they still weren't able to pull the trigger and book with you?
Sure. I mean, look, the reality is
So it isn't that the trust and the
Is there a soapbox under here that I can get on for just a moment?
No, there's
okay.
not.
Doggone it.
No, and our videos are so tall.
Okay, well, it frustrates me when I see people that get upset that someone didn't book them because they have like a low budget, and I've seen people. And I'm sorry, I've seen DJs, I've seen caterers, I've seen wedding planners, I've seen just about every level of our profession post something on Facebook when a client doesn't book them because they have, a $50 budget. And instead of just letting it go and admitting it's not your client, we have to go on Facebook and call them out.
Rant about it.
And rant about it. And the only reason anybody does that is not because they want to rant. They just want to see how many people they can get to agree with them. Reinforce my anger. Well, what's the purpose of that? There's no... So, I will have couples, they can't afford me.
Yep.
It's just a fact of life. Or maybe they just don't want everything I have to offer. That's fine. I'm okay with that. There will be other clients that come along that do want what I do.
Right.
I'd much rather work with people who are as enthusiastic about working with me as I am with them. If that relationship isn't there, it's going to be a very long process. And it's not going to be any fun for anybody. So.
Now, in your experience, can you build that level of trust or that relationship in one meeting? Is it something that there are phone calls and then the meeting, or how
I believe you can. I think you can. If your conversation is not all about you, and you're really listening and responding and reacting to what they're telling you, if you are detail oriented, as I am, and I mean, I don't want to come off as saying if you want to do this, you need to be like Ron. Everybody has their own way of doing things,
Sure.
But if you can find a way of developing a trust and at least starting a relationship, you're not necessarily going to establish a relationship. You're going to begin a relationship in that meeting. If you're not, there are words that hot button words that just stay away from, like no, that won't work, or oh no, try, that's silly, or what. If you yes and ideas, if you at least are willing to bend to things that and instead of poo-pooing ideas. Can I say poo-poo on the air?
No, you can't. The censors just bleep that out, I'm sure.
So I mean, I think that yes, you can begin to develop a relationship if you're involved in a conversation, and that to me is a big part of it. If you're actually having a human conversation with a couple rather than just a one-sided conversation, you can begin to establish a relationship.
I want to jump back, back a little bit. You use a phrase, and we've talked about this before, but let's touch on that a little bit more. The yes and concept. For those who haven't heard us talk about that in the past, or how that applies to what we do, give us a little kind of an overview of what the yes and process is.
Yes and the yes and process. Well, it's an improv process. Did you know I've been taking improv, John?
No, I did not.
If you've been reading page 6, you would know that I've been taking improv.
While you continue talking, I'm just going to open up the paper and I'll just read page 6 and I'll become highly enlightened.
There you go.
We go right there. So go ahead.
Yes and is a process where you
Be a little quieter and reading.
The yes and process is something where you're always building on an idea rather than ending an idea. And it works not just with clients, but it works in businesses. Like I might come to you with an idea for an article that you really you're not particularly thrilled with my idea, but rather than saying that idea is bad or no, you might say yeah that idea is might work, and then you add to it by maybe finding a way of making my idea better.
Okay, so let me just practice. So again, you wrote an article. I didn't really. So I would say yes, that's an interesting concept, Ron. Or and it'll really work well in the shredder. I know we should do an article about
shredders.
Is that a little too strong?
Yeah, it might be a little bit too strong.
Help me understand.
Well, I think especially it was fun. Yesterday they did the thing with multi-ops, but even if you're a single op, whenever you come up with an idea, brainstorming is typically a bunch of people sitting around a table, and everybody throws in an idea, and then they figure out which one is going to be cheapest and easiest, and that's the one they do.
Right.
Okay, they go once around the table, and it's, some ideas get poo-pooed and all that. Yes anding is for brainstorming is if this idea is possible, then what else is possible? So we instead of saying, well, that idea won't work, say, oh, that idea is pretty good, and let's add to that by doing this.
Sure.
And it doesn't matter. It can get as outrageous as it builds, but you're still going to find something in there that you can use that is actually going to work, that is going to be different, that is going to be unique. It's a little hard to do with two people. I mean, if we were actually to do a skit,
right.
But you know, on an improv stage, if I come on stage and I say to you, "Man, it's hot today," and you said,
"Yes,
we're in the Arctic," that ends the scene.
Exactly.
Yeah, doesn't go anywhere. But if I came on stage and said, "Man, it's really hot out there today," and you said,
if I'd say yes, and the sky is incredibly blue,
then you've just had, okay, now we have a conversation.
and then you would come back and say, yes, and those birds, did you see those? And then I could come back and say, yes, I see that they have got a limp.
So imagine what happens if you're in a conversation with a bride, and the bride gives you an idea, and you say no. Not necessarily that two-letter word, but you say something that, I'm not.
I was actually, not so much the two-letter, but that face you just gave, the bride gives you, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, even with just that expression.
Yeah.
What's she going to do? She's not going to offer any more ideas.
Exactly.
And she's probably already thinking, how much longer is this guy going to talk? Because I want to get out of here. You know?
Where's the door?
Yeah. So, I mean, so if you say yes, you know, you don't. Every idea, in my opinion, has value. I did a workshop this week, 2-day workshop for love stories, and at the end of the workshop, one of my return, one guy, Scott Allen, who was back for a second time, presented an idea as we were wrapping up class. We were just talking about, you know, things that I could do to make the class better and stuff. Anyway, he just threw out an idea of another way of doing a love story using audio recordings like I do, and it was phenomenal. It was like this idea of it would take some yes-anding to make it work, because the way I do it, I interview the bride and groom and I use their voices. What he was suggesting is going to the supporting cast, best man, maid of honor, parents, other people, maybe grandma, and that were there at different times in the relationship, and recording them,
telling a story,
and getting them to tell. Any true Hollywood story does that.
Yeah, for sure.
But they do it with video. And as I thought about what he was talking, it would take some yes-anding to make it work, but it's definitely
fabulous,
a possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I see potential there.
Oh, yes.
So, but you have to want to do it, and you have to be willing to, accept the fact that, yeah, this is possible. And if this is possible, then what else is possible?
Right.
And if that's possible, what else is possible?
Yeah, but I think one important thing to keep in mind is we're talking about the conversation with the bride is our body language. Because when we're giving that, not so much the viewers, the idea that when we're saying yes, if our voice is saying yes and our face is saying hell no.
Yeah.
as we're talking here, and it was a great.
Yeah, you can't fake it.
You can't.
You can't fake it.
Really be there and in the moment.
Look, I think Pat, and there are people that will disagree with me. I think passion sells.
Yeah.
I do. I honestly believe it, because I've sold weddings. The trust factor comes, and the relationship comes from people knowing that I'm passionate about what I do. I mean, it shows. And a lot of times the comment I will get, even if they don't book me, is that I will get in the email is going to be, you are obviously passionate about what you do, and that's why we're booking you, or it's obvious you're passionate, but still you're just out of our budget. I think passion sells, and the more passionate you are, the easier it is also, I think, to develop that relationship and that trust factor. Because if you're passionate, then you have knowledge. That passion also includes knowing what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about what I do, and I invest in the training that I need to learn more about what I do, so that passion also includes knowledge.
For sure. Sure. And you put that all together, convey that in the meeting, build the trust, and you have something.
Right. Well, I think, like, even this morning, what is it? It's like 5 a.m. in Vegas, and I'm
Yeah,
bouncing all over the place.
We've been up. Well, I don't even know if you went to sleep last night.
I did. Trust me, I did.
You did. I think
I'm old.
Yeah, we had the 4:30 lunch, and then we were in bed by 6.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this one up. We're actually going to do 2. We're going to do this segment, and we're going to take a little break. We're going to leave the video run, and we'll edit this out. So if you're seeing this little dead space, we apologize for that, but that's just the way it is. We're going to take about a 10-minute break. We're going to be back at the top of the hour. Some of the guys in the room needed to get to another seminar here at 8 o'clock, but we're going to do one more session, and in the second session,
we're going to go off the rail.
We're going to go off the rail. Yes, that rail that you were just enjoying us staying on. We're going to go
off.
So this is our first segment this morning. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back in about 10 minutes at our time, 8 o'clock straight up. So we'll see you in 10.